comprehensive, and you did answer many of the questions in general form that we'd been getting through. I'm going to summarize some of them here and ask some other individual ones, but I'll start with the demonstration plant. How large is it going to be? What is the timeline on its construction, and what sort of cost is that going to incur?
So we've got several phases within the demonstration plant itself, Peter. So the initial phase is the development of 6 metre heap leach columns and 6 metre heap leach cribs. So we've placed initial orders on equipment. We're building a shed or a facility now that will be able to house not only the heap leach columns, but the analytical lab and additional metallurgical test work. The second phase of the demonstration plant is to develop 5,000 tonne heap leach modules, so considerable scale up. We anticipate that through the second quarter, we'll complete the construction of the heap leach columns and cribs to be able to commence that test work with the heap leach column, the 5,000 tonne heap leach modules starting later in this year. As far as overall cost, we've been looking at the cost and looking at a stage development with regards to the demonstration plant, and with regards to, I suppose, the current climate, where we are looking at how we can maximise value as we develop Makuutu.
And Tim, flowing on from that, the flow sheet which you discussed earlier in some detail. Given the long-term production that China's had in ionic clay-based rare earth production, are we talking sort of off-the-shelf technology? Is there anything new here that we're looking to, where technology has changed in recent times to make it more efficient?
Yeah, look, so we've been tweaking the overall process flow sheet and incorporating some new intellectual property, which puts us in quite a strong position to probably push the boundaries on what we can do with regards to product quality, and also trade-offs on what that looks like relative to our product going into a third-party refinery as opposed to our own refinery. So we've incorporated nanofiltration as a mechanism to upgrade the PLS solution, which feeds the downstream impurity precip and ultimately the rare earth precipitation. Beyond that, yes, the company's been developing some other intellectual property, and we're not in a position to talk about that publicly. But there's a substantial amount of test work that's gone into the overall flow sheet to this point in time. We still believe there's lots of opportunity to further enhance the overall flow sheet. But the reality is, in order to validate that process, we really have to start looking at treating larger volumes of liquor and material. The only way, or the best way for that to happen, is via a demonstration plant. And so beyond what we've defined in the existing feasibility study, we do see opportunities to further enhance that.
And that probably leads me into this next question about the interest for the product and the basket that you'll be producing. What sort of it's difficult to talk about as well because it's probably confidential, but in broad terms, the interest ex-China in what you're putting together and the basket you're looking to achieve from Makuutu.
Yeah, look, very, very diverse groups. So, there's several groups that we're talking with at the moment across, existing, mining experience to, industrial groups that are looking at rare earths as an opportunity to get, I suppose, potentially to grow into or to fill a need. As you said, Peter, we're not in a position to talk publicly about it, but there's several discussions underway where Makuutu provides the molecules of heavy rare earth to underpin a heavy rare earth facility. So we're in a very unique position. You know, a lot of the light rare earth projects in development today simply do not have the molecules to underpin those heavy rare earth developments. So we're in a very unique position. Lots of discussion, lots of education, and you know, it is quite an exciting time for the company now that we've completed the feasibility study. We're able to progress some of those discussions. Moving to 60% very shortly will be, again, you know, a step towards, you know, helping de-risk that process with some of these groups, and we'll be in a position to update the market in due course.
Thanks, Tim. Several questions came through about the basket price described in the DFS versus today's comparative basket price. Can you comment on the differences there, what the outlook is for that basket price, and if the potential offtakes will play some consideration in future financing?
Okay, so I mean, basket price is always an interesting one. I think if you look at all rare earth projects that have completed any feasibility study, they're always looking at forecast pricing. The reality is, you know, forecast pricing is an incentive price to develop these projects. If we look at where rare earth pricing is today relative to, you know, a handful of other projects that are being evaluated, we are using consistent pricing with all of those projects. The differentiating, I suppose, opportunity for us is, and our basket is, that we are not just an NdPr story. We are a magnet and heavy rare earth story, which means that we have a lot of upside on forecast pricing with regards to the fact that Western end users will not have access to heavy rare earths ex-China going forward. So we are in a situation where it's a very iterative process with regards to what does rare earth pricing look like. You know, current rare earth pricing is effectively Chinese index pricing. Discussions that we have underway, we, you know, again, not sort of giving away too much confidential information, but, you know, there is a desire or an appetite to move away from Chinese index pricing to a pricing structure that does reflect a sustainability approach to be able to ethically and sustainably produce these elements that are now classified, and I suppose more importantly under the recent European Critical Raw Materials Act, you know, strategic raw materials. So you know, pricing is something that will continue to evolve, and I think, you know, Ionic and Makuutu is best placed to be a major beneficiary of those increased pricing discussions that fall out of that.
And Tim, Uganda, you've always said that you've got a very good relationship with the relative government bodies that you're talking to, the community that you're working with. I know you've got a number of people on the ground that are regularly engaged. Can you give us an update, I guess, because you have been discussing that in the past, about how community engagement is and your relationship there with the Makuutu government, the Ugandan government for Makuutu's progress?
Okay, so with regards to the relationship with the Ugandan government, the Ugandan DGSM, and the Busoga Kingdom, we maintain extremely good relationships, and we are in constant dialogue with our key contacts at the DGSM. We are working with, you know, several stakeholders there to make sure that the information is being provided and clarified, and you know, with regards to the mining license application, as I mentioned earlier, we started that process in September of last year. We've provided draft documentation and ongoing updates to be able to progress the mining license application. We are working with our partners in Uganda, and our partners being, several stakeholders, being both, and most importantly, the government in Uganda and the DGSM, in better understanding some of the processes and the timelines that they are working in internally in Uganda to help us finalise the mining licence application. And we've requested some information, and as soon as we've got relevant information to report back to the market, we'll be in a position to do so. We do, and whilst we would have loved to have the mining license delivered by the end of the quarter, I suppose given some of the challenges and delays that we've had in finalising the application, finalising the mining license application fee process, and some of the other administrative activities in Uganda, we do have, and we have had some dialogue back, which at this stage, we feel confident in our expectation that we expect the mining license to be awarded in the second quarter of this year. Uganda has awarded Makuutu a flagship project status. And so, a lot of the dialogue has been very strong support in the development of Makuutu to help develop the mining industry in Uganda. So, we remain very bullish on our expectations there with regards to the outcome of the mining license application process.
And I think you've said to me in the past, there's a lot of locals who are looking forward to gaining apprenticeships and work nearby to their where they live.
That's right. I mean, we've got a team of 50 at the moment working on Makuutu as part of the project team in Uganda. We are looking at obviously increasing that with the demonstration plant. We continue to support ongoing capacity building in Uganda, and really looking at our ability to participate and develop and build the overall capacity of the local area to support this project. So whilst we wait for that mining license to be awarded, we are looking at how we can sort of progress the project through the demonstration plant, building capacity, and these are going to be the operators and operational leaders for the project going forward. So, we are investing heavily in Uganda right now, and will continue to do so.
There's a couple of questions about the share price, which we often get in these types of calls. Ionic is currently showing a share market graph, which I see often in the market after discovery and value discovery and preparation leading into development and construction. There's always a dip. Look at companies like Pilbara, Syra, some of the big success stories. They've all had quite significant dips. Your cash balance at the moment is pretty healthy. Obviously, there's going to be some financing of this project down the track. What's your time frame on that, and what type of arrangement do you foresee being finalised?
So with regards to the overall financing of Makuutu, as I touched on in the presentation, we've started the debt advisory and engaging with debt advisory and financing opportunities for the project. We've got several discussions underway at the moment with regard to the strategic partnering process and what that may look like with regards to opportunity to participate in the project. So there's several opportunities for the company to explore. Again, it comes back to what do we think represents the best value for Ionic, the best value for our shareholders. With regards to financing the project, and I suppose our current 51%, which is going to move to 60% ownership in Makuutu. We're also in discussions with our partners on the other 40%. So looking at how we can simplify the overall funding process for Makuutu over the course of the next few months. So there's several discussions again that are underway here in how we develop Makuutu. I mean, at the end of the day, we have an extremely strategic project producing the elements, the molecules of both magnet and heavy rare earths that Western governments are crying out for. So I think we've got huge optionality in how we look at funding Makuutu. We're in an environment where we already have both the US government and the EU actively investing money in Uganda to, prioritize spending in that jurisdiction. I think we're in a great position to leverage those relationships to be able to develop Makuutu and to get access to those molecules into those Western supply chains that, those governments are, they've set up the Inflation Reduction Act. They've set up the European Critical Raw Materials Act for getting access to the molecules, which this project affords them the opportunity to. So I think we're in a very strong position. There's still a bit of work to be done, but where we benefit is that the fact that we actually have those molecules, which a lot of companies and certainly a lot of countries don't have to begin with.
Certainly, Tim, I think Ionic Rare Earths is well positioned at the start of one of the greatest changes in industry we've seen in 100 years in terms of the energy transmission and EV evolution or revolution that we're seeing. And you're certainly one of the very few projects of scale that's getting set up now to supply that market with a high quality product. So I think shareholders should be comfortable that they've got the right investment here. And if we're patient and go through the development stage into production stage, this company will look very, very different in a couple of years from now. So I've had quite a number of questions. Some are technical around engineering and design. Please send those technical questions through and they'll be forwarded on to Tim. In the meantime, I'd like to wish Tim all the best over there in Belfast and hope your work there is going well. And thank you for presenting here today a good and comprehensive update on where Ionic Rare Earths is sitting.
Thanks, Peter.